Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the 5 p.m. podcast. I'm Tina.
And I'm Dan. And Tina, I've been digging into something pretty wild this week. All 13 Canadian premiers just descended on Washington, D.C.
All 13? That sounds like a political field trip. What's the occasion?
It's a first, apparently. They're there to, get this, try and head off some potentially massive times trade tariffs the U.S. is threatening.
Okay, wait. Tariffs? Don what, exactly? Maple syrup? Hockey pucks?
Laughs. Not quite. We're talking steel and aluminum, mostly. But potentially other goods, too. This could seriously impact the Canadian economy. And, interestingly, the U.S. economy, too.
So it's not just Canada that would feel the pinch? How does that work?
Well, think of it like a complex machine. Canada and the U.S. have these incredibly integrated supply chains, especially in manufacturing. A tariff on Canadian steel, for example, makes it more expensive for American companies to buy that steel. That cost gets passed on to consumers, potentially.
So, higher prices for pretty much everything? That doesn't sound good for anyone.
Exactly. And that's part of the premier's argument. They're saying, hey, we're partners here. Tariffs hurt both of us.
Okay, but there's more to this than just steel, right? I heard something about fentanyl?
Yeah, that's where it gets complicated. The U.S. administration is linking some of these tariff threats to the fentanyl crisis, claiming it's coming from Canada.
That sounds like a pretty serious accusation. Is it accurate?
Well, the data's not really backing that up. Most of the fentanyl entering the U.S. actually comes through the southern times border with Mexico. So the premiers are kind of in the position of having to say, look, we understand the concern, but that's not really us.
That's a tough spot to be in. So, what times are they doing about the fentanyl issue?
They're highlighting a big investment in border security, minus $1.30 times billion times BISLI, to show they're taking it seriously. They're also pointing to the appointment of a fentanyl czar to coordinate efforts.
So they're trying to address the concern, even if the premise of the tariff threat is debatable.
Precisely. It's a delicate balancing act. They need to maintain a good relationship with the U.S., but also defend their own interests.
And where does China fit into all of this? I thought this was about leveraging U.S.-China tensions?
That's the subtle part. The premiers aren't overtly saying, choose us over China. But the implication is there. They're presenting Canada as a reliable, stable trading partner, especially in a time when the U.S. is having disagreements with China.
So it's like saying, we're the good neighbors, the ones you can count on?
Exactly. It's a strategic move, playing on the existing geopolitical tensions without directly naming names. Think of Fortress AMCAN, a more secure North America, less reliant on China.
So what is Fortress AMCAN?
Well, it's the idea of strengthening U.S.-Canada ties and resource alignment, while at the same time limiting China's involvement in the U.S. and Canada.
Interesting. So what are the chances these premiers actually succeed? Are these tariffs a done deal?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There are deadlines looming, March 4th and March 12th, for different sets of tariffs. But nothing's set in stone. The premiers are hoping their united front and the economic arguments will sway the decision.
It's unusual to see all the premiers working together like this, isn't it? Usually, they're, disagreeing.
That's what makes it so significant. They're setting aside their usual political differences to present a unified Team Canada approach. It shows how high the stakes are.
It's almost like they're saying, we're stronger together on the international stage.
Precisely. And it's a different approach from the federal government, which might have its own channels and strategies. This is the provinces taking a more direct, assertive role.
So what should we, as listeners, take away from all of this?
I think there are a few key things. First, the interconnectedness of the U.S. and Canadian economies. Tariffs have ripple effects. Second, the importance of diplomacy, even when there are disagreements. And third, the surprising ways that seemingly unrelated issues, like fentanyl, can get tangled up in trade negotiations.
And, of course, the unprecedented unity of Canadian premiers in the face of a major economic challenge. It'll be fascinating to see how this plays out.
Absolutely. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on this in the coming weeks. Thanks for breaking this down with me, Tina.
Anytime, Dan. And thanks to all of you for listening. Join us next time on the 5 p.m. podcast.